right, guys, so you have a 9-day break until we see you again. And for some of us, it may be too soon. However, when you come back on Monday, you have vocab 1 through 10, Tuesday 11 through 20, Wednesday 21 through 30. Monday we're doing primary, Tuesday we're doing a lecture, Wednesday we're doing a lecture. On Wednesday your map and your primary are due. On Thursday you have a test, your focus and your spice are due. It's an absolute normal week. You're not going to be taking it. Someone was like, are we taking a test on Monday? No, you've never taken a test on Monday. Why would I start? So, no, we have a normal week. We just happen to have a 9-day weekend in the middle of it. So, I will apparently be going home and creating a focus. So, your focus is wrong. I am going to be posting a brand new one today after school. I'll post a link to it on Edsby. I'll post it on Edsby, and I'll also post a link to it on my website because I'm a dum-dum. So, thank you, Kylie, for pointing it out so I can fix it. But I will be posting a new, half of it's right, half of it's wrong. The Africa side is correct, obviously, and then it's just talking about colonies on the other side, which makes no sense for this week's content. So be aware of that, and I will be fixing it, so that's the only thing you have to check out. All right, let's do our map. So everyone should have their map and color pencils or crayons. It hasn't been that hard. Second period couldn't handle it. I don't really know why, but here we go. Pacific Ocean, North America, South America. We have Brazil over here. We have this place called Guianas. We also have Rio de Janeiro right here. We have Buenos Aires over here. We have the South Atlantic, North Atlantic, we have Europe, Saharan desert, not dessert. I wrote dessert on my last one. Alright, so here we go. This is where it kind of gets a little hard. It's an easy map for this side. The other side's a little more complicated. This is the hardest part. This is your Niger River. We have Timbuktu. We have Goa, G-O-A. And then we have J-E-N-N-E. And then down here we have M-B-A-N-Z-A, K-O-N-J-O. That's all we have for the labeling. We need 8 boxes. 8. So your first box is Songhai, then Kingdom of K-A-N-E-M-B-U-R-E-N-O, then Kingdom of K-O-N-J-O. Slaves is your next box. Sugar. Then source area of slaves. Slave settlements. And then manufactured goods. Perfect. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do Songhai. Now the Songhai is going to take over what was the Kingdom of Malay with our boy Sundita, and who is his nephew? Mansa Musa. So Songhai is going to take over Western Africa, and they're going to facilitate trade, of course. Then we have the Kingdom of Borneo, which for me is going to be this ugly red color. And that's going to be right over here. Now, over here, the Swahili states are going to collapse this week. Why do you think they're going to collapse? There's a very logical reason. They're going to collapse. Why, Jake? No, not slave trade. Why did they collapse, Nate? And who specifically? The Portuguese are going to shut down their ports and only allow what type of ships to come in? Portuguese. So the Portuguese are going to start limiting the access of the Africans to trade in order to control trade themselves to make more money. So we're going to start seeing that happening. Now I'm going to use pink to be my source area of slaves. Now source area slaves are where slaves are coming from. Now it is important for you to understand that slaves are not, white people are not going into Africa at this point. White people are just pulling up to the coastline essentially, okay? And then who is then capturing all of the slaves? The same Africans, what?
Yeah, because aren't they like trading?
Okay. But who's bringing all these slaves to the coastline? Because the Europeans are just pulling up with their boats, and on the shores there's already Africans in chains ready to go. Who brings the slaves to the coastline? Other Africans, yes. It is other Africans, okay? So Africans are making money off of the slave trade. A kid in my last class was like, well, how do they make, like, how do you decide if you're going to be a slave or you're going to be a slaver? And it's about your rivals. So if Nate really hated Ethan here, he could be like, screw it, bang him over the head with a rock, and then drag Ethan to the slave port, and then ta-da, guess what, Ethan? You're a slave. That's it. Now, some people are going to go ahead and do this for their profession. However, most of them are going to be, if you capture a bunch of people in war, okay, instead of feeding them and housing them, what are you going to do? Yeah, you're going to enslave them. You can make money off of them for sure. So, it's not white people going in. Now, during period 5, next period, are white people going into the continent? Yes. And they're going to do terrible things, especially in Ethiopia. Oh my God. It's going to be awful in Ethiopia. All right, here we go. So these are where slaves are heading to, as you can see. Brazil is actually going to be the #1 importer of slaves. Why? Sugar. Now, sugar is super, super labor intensive. Because of that, they go through the most amount of slaves. If you were a slave who arrived in Brazil, you had about 3 weeks to live. Now, I just did the United States, well, what will be the United States. You can see that slaves go all the way up the coastline, okay? Slavery is going to die out in Northern America on its own. Why? What is going to happen in period 5 that is going to cause in the Northeast slavery to die out? Why, Nate? What, Nathan? There you go. And the Industrial Revolution doesn't need slaves. It needs what? Machines. And the machines are the ones that are going to do most of the work. So because of that, that is why the North is going to be fighting against slavery to a degree during the Civil War, because they don't need slaves. Now, does the South need slaves? Yes, they do need slaves, because what are they growing in the South? Cotton. Now, cotton is not very, it's not very cost effective at this point, up until period 5 with the invention of what? Cotton Gin by Eli Whitney is going to transform, and at that point, the United States is going to be the 2nd largest importer of slaves, because cotton will finally be profitable. Now, slaves for me is going to be a blue arrow. Slaves are going to be coming out of Africa, of course, and are going to be heading here. Now, traditionally, most slave ships are going to go to Brazil first. Why are they going to go to Brazil first? Yeah, more people are going to buy slaves in Brazil than anywhere else, which is why you're going to see a ton of arrows going there. However, the Caribbean is second, because Caribbean is also growing what? Sugar. Okay, so because of that, the Caribbean is also going to be a major importer. And then the third stop you're going to make is the United States. At this point, what is American colonies? But you're going to see, sugar for me is going to be black. you're going to see that most of your ships are going to prefer going south because they'll pay more for the slaves. The United States isn't going to be paying that much for slaves at this point. And then your manufactured goods are going to start from where? Europe, absolutely. They're going to go from Europe to Africa, the whole continent. They're going to go to Europe to Africa. Okay, and they're also going to sell guns and rums. What is it called when guns and rums go from Europe to Africa, and then Africa is going to buy slaves, and that's going to be brought to the United States or the Americas, and then molasses, sugar, cotton is going to go. What's it called, Jake? Triangular trade, absolutely. All right, I'm done with your map. You have a couple minutes, and we're going to flip to the other side. So yeah, we're going to talk again about triangular trade. We're going to add a little bit more complexity to it this week as well. We're also going to talk about the destruction of Africa, starting with the Portuguese. As you can see, the Swahili states are going to collapse pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about the impact of slave trade on Africa, which is going to be pretty damn devastating. So hopefully you can tell from the beginning of period 3, Africa was pretty vibrant. Can we agree? We had lots of money running around. The wealthiest person to ever live, Mansa Musa, is from Africa. All that stuff is going pretty well. And now we're going to start seeing the destruction of Africa, starting with the Portuguese. Hopefully this is starting to fill in some of your questions about why Africa is so far behind. And when we look at Africa, we kind of think of it as a hot mess, yes? Okay, and that's starting, hopefully you're starting to see kind of the bigger picture. Especially like when people ask, well, I just don't understand why Africa can't help itself. Well, it's been completely dissected. And is Africa all by itself here in 2018? No, actually. The funny thing is that we're going to talk about imperialization, where Western countries went in and took over countries and stuff. They gave some benefits like building bridges, dams, reservoirs, stuff like that. However, exported all of their resources. Well, here in 2018, China has done this to Africa again. We have imperialism going on in Western Africa, with China has taken over 500 square miles of territory and built the massive factory and are using the African labor force as essentially really cheap labor. So when we think of China, we think cheap labor. What do you think it costs if Chinese companies are going to Africa? Do you think they're going to pay them the same amount as Chinese workers or less? So how do you think that works out for the African people? Not good. Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of really shady things going on with China at the moment. So I'll give you guys 1 minute, and then we're going to flip to the other side. So it's just kind of interesting to see how history repeats itself. And it's interesting, it's not a Western country at this point, it's an Eastern country doing it. But obviously we can see here in 2018 that China is absolutely a power player here in world economics. So it's just kind of interesting. As we have starting to have Western countries who are struggling, which is just so interesting to see how the world changes.
I found out how much a yen is.
How much is a yen?
So $1 is 113 yen, and you need $9.38 to buy a $1,000 yen bill, because that's your smallest bill.
Weird.
I tried to buy yen yesterday.
Why? Why were you trying to buy yen?
Because there's a currency exchange thing.
Were you at International Mall?
Yeah, we were at International
Why
Mall.
do you want a yen?
Because why not?
Because you, like,
They look cool.
do they look cool?
They actually are.
Yeah, but won't you want to add to that collection when you actually go to China? Why not? You should go.
I don't want to.
I think we're going to try to go your senior year. I'm dying to get to China. Don't you want to see it after talking about it as much as we do? Oh my God, all we do is talk about China, for God's sake. We really deserved a map day today, don't you think? Oh, you're already done? Oh my god, sweetie. Jeez. I thought I was OCD. Now, what are you doing over break if you've already started your focus and your spice? Oh my god, I've ruined your life, haven't I? I've really ruined your poor sweet life. Alright, flip it over. There's a pile over here where my elbow is, too. Okay. Alright, here we go. Alright, we got Atlantic. Atlantic Ocean, Hudson Strait. Hudson Bay. Got Quebec. We got North America. We've got the Rocky Mountains. We've got New Spain. We've got Mexico City.
I just met it.
Hi.
I made a Thanksgiving card and I'm here to deliver it to you.
Thank you for interrupting my class, Johnny. I'll see you 6.
See ya.
Do you have emotions?
Yeah, mostly disgust. Veracruz. No, that's very kind, but weird that it's right now happening. Acapulco. We got Panama. Panama City. We got New Granada. Lima. We got the Andes Mountains. We've got Conception. We got Buenos Aires. Rio de la Plata. Brazil. And then we're going to draw in some lines here. Right there. This is Guiana. Alright, we're going to make an island. That's Jamaica. We have Cuba. Hispaniola's on this side. Then we have Santo Domingo. We have Puerto Rico right here. We have the Gulf of Mexico. St. Augustine. Jamestown. New York. Boston. There you go. And then you need 5 boxes. Dutch possessions. English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. Alright, let's start with, might as well get the Dutch out of the way. There's one. Yellow for me is Dutch. Right there. Then English is going to be next. They're going to be a dark green. So we'll start with Jamaica. Jamaica belongs to. Then we also have, do not color in Florida. What is Florida? Who does it belong to? Spain. Okay. Then they're also going to have over here, what do we call Newfoundland, over here as well. And then it gets a little bit tricky on this. It's not that hard though. Oh, sorry. It would be significantly harder if you can't see, so that makes sense. Now, it just kind of ends. Who can tell me why does it just end? It got too cold? No. It does not get too cold. Why does it just end? They didn't what? They didn't explore. Yeah, they didn't explore that far yet. Eventually, will they explore all the way to the Pacific? Yes. However, at this point, when we're in period 4, this is as far as they got. And they just kind of stop. Now, do you think if anyone walks this way, are the British going to say it's theirs?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. But have they officially claimed it? No. So that's your English. Then you have your French, who for me will be blue. They are going to go... Oh, I forgot to label Louisiana. Now, should you color in Florida yet? No. You do not color in Florida. Oh, in case you didn't see, yesterday, Ron DeSantis, I almost called him Rob. Ron DeSantis won the governorship. He will officially be our Florida governor. However, the senatorial race is still yet to be. It's too close to call, so they're going to hand count the ballots. Florida, we look like a hot mess. Can we agree? Oh my God, we're a week and how many days past? So it's going to be in more time until we figure out who our senator is going to be. However, it does look like Rick Scott is going to continue the lead. However, everyone's just suing each other at this point. So, fun fact. Alright, so you also... Santo Domingo, which is way down here, is going to be French as well. Oh, I didn't color in my key. How rude. There you go. So, can we agree French has a huge territory? Yeah, it's huge. Alright, then we have the Portuguese. The Portuguese are going to be down here. Now, this is a little bit tricky. They're, for me, the pretty color. They are going to... There's a little spot over there. So it doesn't follow the current lines of Brazil perfectly. I tried getting a blank map, but I couldn't, so sorry. So there is your Brazil, controlled by the Portuguese. Why does the Portuguese only have Brazil? Why don't they have more territory over here? Treaty of Tordesillas. Who can raise your hand and tell me something about the Treaty of Tordesillas? What you got, William?
It was made between the Spanish and the Portuguese because they're both Catholic and they didn't want to fight.
They didn't want to fight, or who didn't want them? There you go. The Pope didn't want them to fight. There you go. Who eventually will benefit the most from the Treaty of Tordesillas? Spain. There you go. Alright, so back up to the top. This is Spanish for me. It's going to be this red color. Okay. And they get... I'm just going to do my outline first because it's a lot of territory. Now, this little corner over here is Spanish. So that little island that we ignored, that little cutout we ignored, it's Spanish. So all of this belongs to Spain. And then, of course, don't forget about Florida, which belongs to Spain. All of Central America. And then Cuba, of course, belongs to Spanish, and so does Hispaniola. There you go.
Panama Canal made?
Right here.
When was it made?
Oh, it's going to be built in period 5 in the early 1800s.
Okay.
Like 1830s, I think. They break ground 1830s, 1840s. That's it. No, it's just a lot of labeling. That's it. You are done. So hopefully you can see from the map that when we start having our age of revolutions, are things going to change pretty drastically? Yes, we're going to kick out the Spanish, which means all this land needs to be reorganized. The United States is obviously going to be leading the revolutions, which sets them up to take over essentially the Western Hemisphere, which is exactly what we do. But yeah.
It's Rio
De la Plata. What's the matter, Nathan?
I just think we have like one of those pop-up ads you see on your windows, and it's just USA.exe has run out of manifest to destiny.
What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Because when we reached all the way to the West Coast, then we ran out of land to manifest for our destiny.
Oh my
So
god.
USA has run out of.
That is what you sit here and think about?
Yeah.
I mean, we got Hawaii.
Yeah, we do get Hawaii later. And don't worry, we're just going to turn our focus onto South America and use that to exploit. And the Middle East.
When is Russia conquering Alaska? Or is it already there?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
They get like something northwest.
Because
Communist
before
states
it was
like
Russia,
that.
who was Alaska?
I think it was. I think it was Russian. It was Russia for a little bit. I don't know how long though. It's not really what you would call a power player in history, if you will. And there you go. I am done. Nice. What a beautiful map.